Well, hey everybody, it's Paul. Welcome again to the channel. I was just reminiscing with a friend of mine, talking about the old days. In some way, we got on the subject of Kmart and just going back how things were. Now, I'm mid-50s, so I'm talking like going back to how things were probably in the mid-70s when I was like 10, 12 years old or something. And I thought people always seem to love my gum chewing, bubble blowing, sit down, relax kind of conversations. So I thought I'd do one today, but I'm not going to use my typical bubble yum or hubba bubba, any of those. What I've got today is some of these ice cubes. I like the peppermint. They come in the spearmint too, but the peppermint is just got that like ice cold kind of flavor. I keep some in the car, and when up here in Michigan it's always really cold, so they almost get kind of frozen. They get super hard, and that's why I like them the best. But these been endured, unfortunately. But it is great. I love the smell of peppermint. Love the taste of peppermint. They're actually little cubes, and it almost kind of reminds you of blue cheese. So you have little blue dots of, I guess, flavor crystals. It's almost like you can crunch down. It's like you have crystals of sugar. Well, it's kind of like that. I think they're flavor crystals. Let me, maybe I can show you one and it might focus. I don't know. But it almost looks like blue cheese, but with the dots of flavor in there. So good. So when I'm driving, oftentimes for a long stretch, you kind of get bored sometimes, and I'll grab some of these. I usually go for 3 or 4, and they're not really bubble gum, but you can blow bubbles with it. Not the hugest bubbles necessarily, but there's something about that flavor and the action of chewing, and helps to keep you concentrating on the road. But it's just that flavor that really hits you. Not sponsored by Hershey's, I should be. The good thing too for me is it's sugar free. Sugar free and flavorful. Can't beat it. I appreciate all the people that stop by to unwind from time to time. A lot of people like different types of ASMR type videos now. I remember when I first got into ASMR many years ago, nobody knew really what it was about, and it's come such a long ways now. And ASMR means so many things to so many different people. But to me, I always prefer unintentional ASMR. So, like, I can easily fall into listening to somebody's voice that I find, and then if they're a little bit interesting, it's just a match made in heaven, and they're not trying to make sounds, do things. They're just doing their thing. And the perfect example, of course, is Bob Ross. He had a great voice, and he's just doing his painting, and you're just following along listening to him, and it's just so relaxing. I used to work a really high stress job, in finance. So I was talking with this person, and just somebody were talking about our first frozen Coke, and I am a frozen Coke fanatic. I love them. And now, of course, back then it was always frozen Coke and then frozen cherry Coke. Now, of course, they have every flavor under the sun. And I really like how 7-Eleven generally has a sugar-free frozen drink option, which is really nice. I'm a fan of Speedway too. I like their coffees and all, but the problem is they never have a sugar-free option. I think I read a while back where 7-Eleven acquired most of the Speedway stations from Marathon, so maybe they'll change that. Not too bad for a first one, right? But I remember Kmart's. And if you don't remember ever going in a Kmart, or maybe they didn't have them by you, but if you've ever been in Sears, it was kind of a thrifty, let's say, it's kind of more like a thrifty version of Sears. So like maybe you had J.C. Penney would have been the highfalutin of good stuff, and then Sears was middle of the road, and then Kmart's was thrifty. But one of the things we always joke about is remembering the flashing blue light was something that they had at Kmart's, and it looked like it was one like old-timey police light, but was blue, say, like, and it would spin, and it was on a pole, and it would be on wheels, and then they could push it around, and then they would turn it on and say, there's a blue light special on Hanes t-shirts over on aisle 17 or something, and people would all hustle over there to get that. You would see where the blue light is flashing, and you knew right where to go and gather around and get your sale items. But what I remember most about Kmart's was, well, first, one little thing was they would run an ad in the little paper. You would get the little flyers, and it seemed like if it was anything good or cool, whenever you went to get it, they were out of it. No rain checks, just out of it. So I always thought maybe that was like a lost leader, kind of like a bait and switch type of deal. But one of the best things that they had is when you would walk in, right in the middle of the store, like, they had this, it was kind of like not a restaurant section, there was no seats, but they sold stuff like, it was almost like a deli type. They would have the frozen Coke there, and they had this sign that would spin, and it had the frozen Coke, and the Coke was all kind of like sparkly looking. But they had these ham, cheese with some lettuce on it, and a bun, ham sandwiches for sale. And back then, I think you got 4 of them for $1. So you get that, and you'd get your frozen Coke, and man, that was a treat. I think they did that up until, I think I was driving. Maybe I started mowing grass. I did landscaping. And I remember sometimes getting those cheap beats. Good stuff. Mm. Thankfully, this stuff's it's not the best for blowing bubbles, but it's not too sticky either. They're pretty good. Now, Sears also had like a place where you could get food, frozen Coke, say. I don't remember them doing a sandwich, but they had candy. Great chocolate candies, and it was all like at eye level, if you were a kid, maybe 3 feet off the ground or something, and then it was glass, so you could see all the chocolate covered nuts, chocolate covered raisins, crunchy chocolate, Oh. So we didn't have everything. We didn't have no internet and no fun stuff like that, but we had A&Ws, and I remember you back into the place. My mom would usually do it, and then when you were ready to order, you would flash your lights, and then the girl would come out, take your order, and then bring it out on a tray, and you would put your window down on the car about halfway, and they would hook the tray onto the side of the window. And you had those frosty mugs of A&W root beer. That was great stuff. And of course, we have White Castles. I love some White Castles. We don't have any around here. It's about an hour drive. But if I get to that part of town, I try to always get me some Castles. So if you've never had a White Castle burger, I've heard that they have crystals down south, but I've never had one of those. That's quite a bit like it. But they start out with a little piece of beef that's thin, that's like this wide. It has like 5 holes in it. And they put that on a bed of frying onions. And they drop that on there, and it cooks. And then they put the buns on top of the meat. So they're getting the steam, coming off of the oil and water, whatever is boiling those onions, frying them or what have you on a big griddle. So then they take it off, they put it together, and they put it in a little box, and they put 2 boxes in the end. That kind of keeps the steam in. And then they fill up a bag with them. But it just melts in your mouth. You've got the steam bun and the cheese melted all over, and boy, you get that, a Coke and a fry, and that is pure heaven on earth right there. That is so good. What was cool about White Castles, it was 24 hours, so if you were up late studying or doing whatever you were doing, you could always count on White Castles to be open, get you some grub going. But that's how it was shopping, man. We would buy everything from Sears. My mom worked at Sears, so she got 10% discount on stuff, and we just thought that was great. At first she was selling coats. Like, they would sell expensive, I don't know, mean coats or some kind of expensive coats there. And then she went over to paint. They would sell the Sears paint was pretty good, I guess. And I guess they got commission on selling the paint too. That worked out pretty well. Then she went over to the shoe department, so we would buy everything from Sears, which was fine. Sears, the only problem was they never sold brand names. Like, you always had to buy the Craftsman brand, or if you're getting a stereo, I remember it was LXI. I had an LXI. couldn't get a Sony or Kenwood or anything. It had to be sold at Sears. Even a boat, I had one of those Game Fisher 12-foot aluminum boats. And I had that thing forever. We used it all the time. And a 7.5 horse Game Fisher motor. God, I wanted one of those Johnson or Evinrude, water cooled. This was an air cooled. But that thing lasted forever. 7.5 horse, but I always wanted the 9.9 Johnson or Evinrude, man, with the water that would spray out. I thought that was so cool. It's funny how things, when you're little are so funny how, things like that seem like such a big deal, right? But that's how life goes, everything changes. I think Kmart and Sears are both pretty much gone as far as I know. Well, what's kind of cool was the record shop. So, you could go in and look at the different albums. And back then, the album art really kind of meant something. It's kind of cool to see the different it's kind of cool to see the different albums they would come out with and the artwork. And I guess some people are still buying vinyl. I don't know. I remember as a kid, we couldn't wait for the CDs to come out. You didn't have to put a penny on your needle or worry about hearing the scratch go. A lot of things are for the better. Not everything, though. Well, anyways, guys, I've rambled enough. One more one for the road. Thanks so much for tuning in. It always makes my day. Till next time, we'll see you.